This is History Myths and Myth-Conceptions, and today's myth-conception is aqueducts. People usually misunderstand what an aqueduct really is. They see the remains of these grand structures, towering arches scattered across the landscape, and go, well, yeah, looks nice, looks big. The Romans used it to move water around. Good for them. But that's only the visible part. An aqueduct is an iceberg of sorts. You cannot really see the whole picture because it is a complex system which is largely hidden under the ground. The aqueducts, in fact, are probably the most impressive achievement of the Roman engineers. It is an actual wonder of the ancient world. Aqueducts are more impressive than the pyramids and things like that. They're not just ancient plumbing, they are a piece of 19th century technology. So the most stunning feature of the aqueducts is inhuman scientific precision. Most Roman aqueducts operated using gravity, allowing water to flow naturally from higher elevations to lower ones. The engineers constructed channels with extremely gentle gradients, often just a few centimeters of decline per kilometer. The aqueduct could easily bring water from sources as far as 100 kilometers, just relying on a perfectly calculated decline that allowed water to flow over enormous distances. Out of all the aqueducts, I'd like to mention the famous Pont du Gard in France, because it tells us a very revealing story. So this Pont du Gard is an aqueduct bridge constructed during the reign of Claudius, which used to be a part of the system that transported water over 50 kilometers to the city of Nemausus, modern-day Nîmes. The slope of this structure was 34 centimeters per kilometer, which is a fantastic precision even by modern standards. Later, when the empire collapsed, the technology was lost and Pont du Gard was used solely as a bridge. But the structure still stands up to this day. And some aqueducts are more than relics. For example, in the city of Cologne, segments of Roman aqueducts have been partially reintegrated into modern water supply networks. Because if you can restore and clean the aqueducts, they are still good enough for use in modern times. They are efficient, they comply with the modern standards, and the planning of the networks, the whole design of the system is near perfect. And yes, the word system is actually the key here. Romans were absolute masters of water. They were designing entire hydraulic ecosystems. Aqueducts were the delivery system, but water has to come from somewhere, and it has to be stored. So Romans obviously built dams and canals. The dams were constructed primarily to store water for urban use, agriculture, and industrial purposes, as well as to protect settlements from flooding. And naturally, one of the most important uses of dams was to support the aqueducts by stabilizing water sources. Additionally, some dams were used in mining operations, specifically in hydraulic mining, where controlled bursts of water were used to erode soil and expose valuable minerals. These dams were typically constructed using concrete, stone, and rubble, often with a facing of dressed stone to provide additional strength and durability. Which is, once again, quite obvious, but I have to mention this to stress once again the importance of Roman concrete, which made all the construction works possible in the first place. Several Roman dams have survived or left remnants that provide insight into their engineering capabilities. One of the most famous is the so-called Proserpina Dam near Emerita Augusta, modern Merida, Spain, which created a large reservoir that supplied water to the city via the aqueduct. Another dam near Merida served a similar purpose and is notable for the fact that it is still partially in use up to this day. And since we're on this subject, let's mention the canals and one canal in particular, because people sometimes choose to ignore it, which twists our perception of antiquity. I'm talking about the Canal of the Pharaohs, linking the Nile River with the Red Sea. So yeah, Egyptians and later Romans had their own version of the Suez Canal. The modern canal was opened with a huge pomp in 1869. It was a construction project of incredible importance, and immense cost, a marvel of engineering. But there was a canal in antiquity. It was probably completed by Darius I. But I mentioned it in the video about Roman technology and Roman aqueducts in particular, because first of all, Egypt became a part of the Roman Empire. And second, even though the initial canal was Egyptian or Persian, depending how you look at things, the Romans were significantly improving the existing system, most notably under Trajan. So, in the end, Roman aqueducts weren't just marvels of stone. It was a system which represents a level of planning, engineering, and integration that rivals or even surpasses many modern efforts.